The sentencing of Mike Wolfe, star of American Pickers, left viewers across the country stunned. When he was led away in handcuffs, many assumed his arrest had something to do with a dispute over antiques or perhaps a falling out with the History Channel. However, breaking news revealed a far more disturbing reason. The death of his former co-host Frank Frits was no accident, as initially believed. Investigators had reclassified it as a case of premeditated murder. Medical examiners discovered dangerously high levels of prescription drugs in Fritz's system, far beyond therapeutic doses, indicating he had been intentionally overdosed. Prosecutors claimed Wolfe carefully planned the killing, describing it as a cold, calculated act. For someone to drug a former friend and trusted business partner was, in their words, not just criminal, but evil. Although some fans believed the friction between the two men was merely for show, the reality was much darker. Wolfe, already facing charges, was accused of orchestrating what authorities described as a revenge-driven murder, motivated by jealousy and greed. Initially, his charges were briefly reduced as investigators gathered evidence. However, things escalated when a crew member placed Wolfe at Fritz's home the night he died. Surveillance footage, text messages, and fingerprints on pill bottles all led Iowa State Police to push for first-degree murder charges. The investigation into Fritz's death began when the medical examiner noted inconsistencies in the toxicology report. While the public was told Fritz had died from stroke-related complications, the autopsy told a different story. He had ingested lethal doses of medications never prescribed in such high quantities. Alarm bells rang immediately, especially since Fritz had been meticulous about following his treatment plan during recovery. Police focused on who had access to Fritz in his final hours. Security footage revealed that Wolfe's vehicle arrived at Fritz's residence late at night, about 3 hours before emergency services were contacted. Later that same night, Wolfe called 911, claiming he had stopped by to check on his old friend and found him unresponsive. Paramedics confirmed Fritz had no pulse upon arrival and declared him dead at the scene. Initially, his death was attributed to his prior stroke, but the toxicology findings shifted the investigation dramatically. What made detectives more suspicious was Wolfe's behavior in the aftermath. Instead of mourning, he swiftly began contacting Fritz's legal team regarding control of his name and image for merchandise. He also sought access to Fritz's antique collections, many of which had never appeared on the show. Crew members noted Wolfe appeared more focused on business than grief. A search of Wolfe's home revealed a hidden safe filled with unlabeled bottles containing the same substances found in Fritz's body. Even more damning was a personal journal, where Wolfe expressed years of growing resentment toward Fritz. One entry, dated weeks before Fritz's death, read, "F thinks he can come back and steal the spotlight. He forgets I built this show. The network knows there's only one way to save what I've created." During the 6-week trial, Wolfe remained mostly silent beside his legal team while prosecutors laid out a detailed case. His internet search history revealed disturbing queries like how to mask poisoning as stroke and can drug interactions be detected after death? Former crew members testified about the deterioration in the relationship between the two men, with Wolfe becoming increasingly controlling and often belittling Fritz behind the scenes. Production assistant accounts painted a picture of a toxic dynamic, with Wolfe insisting he deserved full control of the show due to Fritz's declining health. Danielle Colby, who testified for the prosecution, broke down as she described confronting Wolfe about his obsession with being the sole face of American Pickers. She had also discovered notes in his office tracking Fritz's medication regimen. Wolfe claimed it was out of concern, but the context made it chilling. The defense attempted to present Wolfe as a misunderstood friend who had tried to support Fritz's recovery. Network executives were brought in to testify about his public support. However, this narrative crumbled when Fritz's doctor confirmed that the dosages in his system far exceeded anything he'd been prescribed, and that Fritz had been optimistic and planning to launch his own antique business. Wolfe's composed exterior finally cracked during cross-examination. When asked if he had administered the medication, he lashed out at the prosecutor, shouting, "You don't know what it's like to build something from nothing and watch someone else take credit." The courtroom fell silent. Jurors later described this moment as decisive in their deliberation, revealing the deep bitterness Wolfe had harbored. Financial motives became even clearer when forensic accountants testified that Wolfe had recently restructured his businesses to absorb Fritz's. intellectual property. He had also taken out a $5 million life insurance policy on Frits, naming his company as the beneficiary. Prosecutors uncovered multiple shell companies used to funnel valuable antiques into Wolfe's control, totaling over $2 million in assets. The jury deliberated for only 4 hours before delivering a guilty verdict. As the judge announced a life sentence without parole, Wolfe exploded. Screaming that Frits had planned to destroy his legacy, he leapt over the defense table, hurling objects and charging at Fritz's family. Court officers tackled him, but not before he struck a bailiff with an antique walking stick used as evidence. The courtroom erupted in chaos. Screams echoed as people rushed for the exits. Even as Wolfe was restrained, he shouted accusations at Danielle Colby, demanding she tell the truth about Frits. Colby turned away in tears. The violent outburst marked Wolfe's final public appearance, an eruption that destroyed any remaining chance of a successful appeal. In the days following the trial, former colleagues came forward with troubling stories about Wolfe's off-camera behavior. Former producer Thomas Reynolds described Wolfe's on-set rages and paranoia, claiming he had become obsessed with the idea that Frits would return with a rival show. Despite his friendly, on-air persona, Wolfe had reportedly grown increasingly volatile behind the scenes. The scandal has sent shockwaves through the reality television world. American Pickers, once beloved for its nostalgia and charm, now faces an uncertain future. The History Channel has pulled all episodes featuring Wolfe and issued a statement expressing sympathy to Fritz's family. Major sponsors have withdrawn, and Fritz's family has filed for control of his estate while pursuing legal action against the network for ignoring warning signs. Mental health experts analyzing the case suggest Wolfe may have suffered from narcissistic personality disorder worsened by years of fame. Dr. Robert Keller noted that while this does not excuse Wolfe's actions, it may explain his dual nature, publicly charismatic, yet privately resentful and vindictive. Fritz's departure from the show, Keller said, may have inflicted a psychological wound Wolfe never recovered from. Perhaps most disturbing of all is how Wolfe used his platform to manipulate public sentiment. In the days after Fritz's death, he appeared on social media crying and mourning while secretly diverting over $1 million in memorial merchandise proceeds to accounts only he controlled. This wasn't just murder, prosecutor Sarah Donovan said. This was deception on a massive scale, betrayal of a friend, a business partner, and millions of viewers. Now serving a life sentence, Wolfe leaves behind a shattered legacy. Many fans feel betrayed by the man they once welcomed into their homes. He fooled us all, said longtime viewer Robert Jenkins. We believed in his charm, his passion. For history, to find out it was all a lie is heartbreaking. Danielle Colby has since taken a leave from television, asking for privacy as she copes with the trauma. The American Pickers crew remains divided. Some still believe in Wolfe's innocence, while others see his guilt as undeniable. The final words spoken by the judge now seem more prophetic than ever. You claimed to preserve history, Mr. Wolfe, but you tried to erase a man who helped make that history. As the prison doors closed on Wolfe, he shouted one last message. Goodbye forever to all of you. The truth will come out. Whether that was the cry of a desperate man or the final act of manipulation remains open to interpretation. What's certain is that American Pickers will never be the same again, its legacy forever marred by betrayal, violence, and the darkest side of fame.